Okay, here's a new one about the cave art that's in France and across Europe, I guess. And it tells you that the cave art that's in France is 10,000 years older than previously thought. The cave drawings in the Chauvet Pont d'Arc, France, may be taking back the crown for the oldest animal paintings on Earth. They show a lot of strange things, one of which are these cave bears, which no longer exist really in northern Europe, except for far up into Siberia some. But they show cave bears and things like that, and a lot of creatures, rhinos and stuff. We'll look at a few of those pictures here shortly. Some of the world's oldest prehistoric artwork, located in Chauvet Pont d'Arc cave in southeastern France, is actually 10,000 years older than previously thought, researchers said on this Tuesday. The red and black cave drawings contained in the cave are more than 30,000 years old. In fact, they're dating them to about 36 to 38,000 now. According to radiocarbon dating study published this week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a peer-reviewed U.S. journal. The cave is located in Vallon Pont d'Arc, Ardèche, and was classified as a United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, World Heritage Site in 2014, 20 years after it was first discovered. What is new in our study is that we have established the chronology of the cave for the first time in calendar years, said Anita Quills, a scientist at the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology in Cairo. Because of the stylistic similarities, researchers had long believed that the Chauvet art was from about the same period as that contained at Lascaux, a prehistoric site in southwestern France that dates to around 20,000 years old. But we know there's 10,000 years or even 15,000 years of the split in the dates of these two sites, she told AFP. We can now say with certainty that there has been no human activity in the Chauvet cave for about 30,000 years. So this was when the activity was there, and it left at about 30,000 years ago. The study analyzed charcoal samples on the cave floor and walls and found that there were two phases of human occupation. The first lasted from about 37 to 33,500 years ago, said the study, appearing to come to an end around the time of the rock fall in one section of the cave. A second wave of human occupation lasted from 31,000 to 28,000 years ago. The end of the second human occupation correlates with a second rock fall interior to the tank at 29,400 years ago that partially closed off the cave's entrance, said the study. Apparently, cave women were also artists, too, in this. Researchers also analyzed animal bones found in the cave and identified them as belonging to cave bears. In fact, there's a monument set up with a flattened stone and a cave bear skull, and his bones are around it, and it looks like this is some type of a ritual altar or something. No human remains have been found inside, and experts believe this is because people did not live in the cave, but rather visited from time to time, or perhaps in this small portion of time here, they didn't bury their dead in that exact spot, but out at someplace else. Later you can find, even in Canaanites, they were burying them under the houses and things like that too. So the artwork contains 447 drawings of animals, including deer, horses, rhinoceroses, even a woman, or partial drawing of a woman. The study took 18 years and involved creating a statistical model which included more than 250 dates derived from samples of charcoal and bone, according to Jean-Michel Genest, scientific director of the Chauvet Pont d'Arc cave. Let me reload this and it'll pull up these pictures for you here. And we had the first one, of course. Well, let's see if we can't. Here's one of the pictures here where you can see a man, looks like he's chasing down what is a deer or something with a club. Right? So Let's just go back here, even though I've ruined it now trying to find those other pictures. Each one of those was a picture here last time. The study took 18 years and involved creating a statistical model which included more than 250 dates derived from samples of charcoal and bone, according to Jean-Michel Genest. This is pretty revolutionary for us. It's a new tool which could be used elsewhere to study other ancient time periods, he said. We can now confirm that 36,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic period, when modern tools, art, and jewelry making techniques appeared, we already had art that was quite evolved, accomplished, and already the object of very long memory and a long cultural tradition in Western Europe, he said. Before this was a hypothesis. Now that we have dozens of dates, we have the certainty. And so there's those cave bears again, and they're done out of red ochre. And here's a lot of the hands that you see that are spit onto there. And one way that they know that women had to do with this art as well as men is that women's ring finger is usually a hair longer than onto a man's, and they find a lot of these showing man's hands and women's hands. And so they were involved quite a bit. This wasn't just men get to paint and women don't. Researching back tens of thousands of years into human history, cave paintings, petroglyphs, and other forms of ancient art such as the one seen above show the roots of our innate desires for self-expression. But exactly who were the Stone Age artists and whose hands collectively painted, molded, or carved what remains of their efforts today? In this slideshow explorer, we know about the artists behind some of the longest lasting examples of human creativity ever found. And in this picture here, you can see the group of people coming through and in, and these are all elephants, right? And the people are real close to them. It doesn't look like an attack scene whatsoever, and they're here around groups of elephants, even walking right up to this one somehow. The Cro-Magnon painters who left behind the images still present in Lagoon cave in France may have had the souls of artists, but they were also athletes compared to modern humans. These ancient Homo sapiens were stronger than their modern descendants. We also had bigger brains. Our brains are actually smaller by about 10%, or the size of a tennis ball. Although a larger brain may seem the hallmark of a more intelligent animal, researchers believe that smaller brain that's been developed out of that is part of an evolutionary process to make our minds leaner and more efficient without having a big old head. Here's some other pictures too, and if you make that out, these are horses standing next to each other in that sallow look. I believe this is one of the arts that was it Van Gogh that came and saw these, and whenever he saw them, he said, he kind of threw up his hands and he said, well, it seems like we've invented nothing new. These people knew how to express it quite well even back then. It like just took the wind right out of him in a way. Stone Age cave painters were realists, painting what they saw rather than what they imagined. According to a study published last week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, paintings adorning cave walls in France frequently depict horses. In some cases, the animals have leopard spots in their bodies, and until this study, however, scientists had only had the evidence to support the existence of one-colored horses, using bones and teeth from more than 30 horses dating back to as much as 35,000 years. Researchers determined that these animals shared a gene associated with a type of leopard spotting seen in modern horses, like in an Appaloosa type of horse or a blanket, according to an AFP report in the findings. Here's another picture where you can see a large amount of animals which look like gazelles hopping, right? And here's that double circular form, hands again. And in this picture there's yellow ochre, even though the yellow ochre things, if you'll look, are really much disappeared. You still see the red and the black real well, but the yellow ochre is faded away, but they're using that too at the same time. Cave paintings may not have the same production values as the average Hollywood blockbuster, but you could say that these artworks were the original silent pictures. Paintings were often laid out in scenes to tell a story. Researchers believe that flute music would have accompanied an art display, music that we can no longer hear and have no real conception of how it sounded. Flutes made of bone were found by a University of Paris researcher in a cave filled with Stone Age paintings on its walls. The most acoustically resonant part of the cave also happened to be the spot with the highest concentration of artworks, according to a report in Science Daily. You know, if you get into a cave and you make a clicking sound, you can get in certain places and it'll just echo right back on you. There's a famous temple that does this thing and it echoes back 7 times. I believe it's in Persia. It's just amazing. Anyhow, so here's one of the older art depictions that's in here. Scratches and lines and oh, bless me. Over here on the left, these 2 stripes right here are actually tusks from an elephant that's over to our left. And it looks like 3 standing trees together at one spot. I'm not sure what that all congeals into being. But you can see all this scratched artwork and then the shape of another animal here. So, like a lion. Women and girls were the key contributors to Stone Age art. Flutings, finger etchings constructed together to form a recognizable shape, such as an animal or an abstract pattern, found on the walls of Rouffignac Cave in the Dordogne, France, reveal that women and girls were the likely artists behind many of the works that are still there today. Researcher Leslie Van Gelder was able to make this determination based on locations of the flutings in the caves. Etchings made closer to the ground were more likely done by children, and the ratio of the size of the index finger and the ring finger. In men, the ring finger tends to be longer, but in women, the digit often the same size or the index finger is longer. And so that's how they had picked out done each one. Here's a little diorama of people perhaps making these drawings in their cave, having their little dwelling that's inside of there. Now, before these cave painters could move into their respective studios, some of them had to evict existing tenants. In 2 French caves containing paintings dating back to around 32,000 years ago, ancient humans displaced cave bears in order to claim the sites for themselves, according to a study published in April in the Journal of Archaeological Science. Cave bears even appear on some of the art on these walls. Researchers came to determine after they performed radiocarbon dating, mitochondrial DNA analysis, and isotope investigations of cave bear remains from Chauvet Ponarc and Du Ouverture's caves, located along the Ardèche River in France, and they are straight down that river, are responsible for the broader cave bear extinction in the region, and whether that is the reason is still unclear. Although it seems that way, and if people are living in all these caves that are going to be the best places for bears to hibernate, then that causes a problem also, right? Environmental and or other climatic changes may have also played a role. And I can see here a man, which is almost like duck-faced or something, you know, and then here's a bull with his head and his horns, a standing bird, and a lot of symbology that's going on in this art, and just this elder, and it's still quite a bit there. Why ancient cave painters took to their craft, particularly when the practice was adopted over thousands of years and across different populations, is still a mystery. Many archaeologists initially believed that the paintings were expressions of creativity or at least simply decorative. However, the anthropologists examining the paintings contend that Stone Age art may have been the product of religious beliefs, as explained in a 2010 study published in the Oxford Journal of Archaeology. And I did a video on that too, way back when it came out, that talked about how they had taken their dead and put them up onto a dais and let the birds eat them away. And you can see all these things in their arts, and even in the Kamyana Mohila art. And it shows you this stairway to heaven that they had back then and all of that concept, and that it was attached to this. And so religion was attached to it. Not everything was religious, though. There was a lot of hunting things and stuff too, of course. It seems like it's basically a picture shot of their life and what goes on, I guess you'd say. The paintings then might be what remains of early shaman-based religions. The images produced could be the result of visions by those holy individuals during those religious rituals also. So let's look at a few more pictures of this art, though, because I wasn't able to pull up the ones. Now, here's some of these pictures. Just in this one alone, what we're looking at is a group of lionesses, which apparently, if you look here to the left, are going, God, which if you look to the left are going after what appears to be rhinos and or cattle, and up here is a bear, right? There's a lot of neat portraits in here and things that show up as being different. Here's two rhinos actually fighting each other, grunting like at the rut. Right? The bicornus looks like the two-horned rhinos. And then, of course, before that was the unicornus, and that's where the idea of the unicorn originally had come from. Let's look through here and just see if we find some that are a little bit more standout. Like this. In this picture, you can see where they've drawn a bunch of them back to back to back to back. And in doing so, they relay the idea there's a whole herd of rhinos that are all running around here at the time. This is up in France. I want to make mention it's up in France. Here are horses running around and a spotted cow like they had talked about, and an expression in front of the cow of 3 lines, which has got to mean something to these people. But yeah, this too here. The red ochre, and the red ochre horse is drawn in front of him, although they had already drawn the cow's belly whenever they put the horse in the front. So you can see a stacking effect right there. There's a few other neat ones that are in here. Here's one that shows you lionesses, but it also shows you the feminine. This is actually a woman here. This is a leg, and this is her torso here, and you can tell that's supposed to be a woman, although it just doesn't seem to have much of a rest of its body there. It's definitely that Venus type of woman, if you look at that we've been showing. And I'm about to do a video on ancient all the Venuses. I really should have knocked it out well before, but I didn't. And I should have done that before I did that last debunked video set, because it's got a lot of it in there. Here we have an elephant, and I don't know why they drawn it with skinny little stick legs, but there's an elephant right there. And then they show the tusks done in scratch outs. There's a couple more in here that are real nice. Here's some more rhinos and stuff that are all in one shot, compiled up, which looks pretty neat. But you can see how they draw them here, and their mouth is sawed up and down and stuff. Really something you'd be kind of proud of making, today. It's not shaded in or anything neat like that, but it's still there. Here's a picture of the ancient deers that used to be alive. They're megaceros. Now this is a huge deer that's bigger than a normal elk. In fact, some of the things talk about them being the European elk, and so kind of neat there. Another plain out picture here of it, what appears to be 2 older men and a younger man, and they're hunting, and they have hunting dogs with them already. All right, and this is Chauvet. Chauvet paintings is Francais, so it's Chauvet. There's another neat thing too. When I showed you those hands before, here's a whole set that are done in yellow ochre. All a bunch of hands that are there. Oddity is you can see that this pinky keeps sticking out on more than half of these. And it seems like, well, this is a woman's hand that's doing this, but it also looks like it was the same woman's hand done over and over again. These aren't all independent women. And so there may be another ritual involved there, or a ritual that was done over and over again, and perhaps this marks the years on how many hands there are that are there, and when this happened, or when that happened. There's a few more pictures I really wanted to show you out of here. And here's one that shows a spotted cave bear and a leopard, and you can tell how huge the cave bear is over the leopard, so that's kind of neat. That again is in Chauvet Cave, and they call this the Cave of Forgotten Dreams. That's the name that they've come up with for it. And they've done a new thing where they had artists come out, and they had taken all the pictures of the area, done in high intensity, and also done a laser in the room and figure out its size actually, and then they rebuilt that room in a fake walled plaster of Paris thing, and then they had artists like this man here come back. Yeah, this is him, Gilles Tosello, come back and redo these arts the same. This face right here is this face right here. So it's kind of neat that they've made this new place. and kind of built upon it and so on. Here's another picture of Chauvet, and you can see inside the cave. That's what looks so neat, is being inside one of these things and being able to walk around and realize that they put these things all over on the wall. There's also a boy's footprints and dog footprints beside them here, way back when, and it shows you that maybe we're pushing the date of whenever man and dog were actually friends again too, with this type of art that we're showing. See if I can show you that the building that they have made here. Here's the altar. This is the altar of the cave bear, what they call it, and they had a cave bear's head and this all the bones all around it and everything else, and so they can kind of tell that this apparently was set up for a ritual or a rite, and that they had done something along this line here. This is in a different cave system, but this is kind of giving you an idea of the people sitting there and what that would have looked like. Man, before I get on too long, here's the owl. They have a famous owl, like a representation of owl wisdom or Inanna, leading into one of the holes that's inside the cave, which is kind of neat. Here he is actually painting on the surfaces here, recreating it size to size, being marked out, and so this is a recreation inside a building. You can see this, right? Recreation inside of a building, redoing it. And so that way people can come and take a close look at it without having to injure or, go into the area without ruining it and exposing it itself. Here's the way that looks. See if we can get a good picture of it here. Here's the way this looks coming up to it. And I think that looks pretty neat. It's kind of like a, I don't know, Rock of Gibraltar kind of concept, but it's also extremely multi-angled, and it gives you that Fred Flintstone cave kind of idea that they seem to be going in here to see this place, and leading up to it and all the paths that are there, and you can see coming up to the front of it how it looks, all of these type visions of it, and I think that's kind of neat. Now it's Valon Park, but this is where it's actually at, and they've made this fake representation of it that people can go up and see quite well. There's a woolly mammoth there. You can tell by the shape of it. That's a woolly mammoth. It looks very much like the one that's in the Disney movies and so on that you see. It's not very different at all from that. So, there's one more picture I was trying to show you out of all this, which showed you something real neat. It showed you the animals' footprints inside the cave that they had found. So apparently, within too long after the people no longer were part of that cave, that an animal had come into there, but it may have been the only one. And it showed you its paw prints, and then they also found the boy and the paw prints that go with it. There's all kinds of artwork that come out of this too. It's amazing. There's clocks that they do with the backgrounds on them, and throw pillows and lockets and things like that that you can get that show you a kind of a thing, and you can get some of this and put it in your man cave, so that's kind of neat. People are forever building a new man cave now and stuff. Here's one of the other signs of the sacred feminine here. It looks more like vulva, I guess, but doesn't contain the body at all, so it may be talking about it in a third person's point of view. I'm not sure, but pretty neat. And it's another cave art here that's inside Chauvet. It kind of shows you a face, something kind of neat about it that's there. They're really not sure exactly what that is, but it looks like one of the first interpretations of a face on or a head on appearance of something. Maybe one of the bulls. But yeah, pretty neat, guys. And I thought I'd just go through and show you some of these pictures till it got old here, and it's starting to. But really not if you're into things like this. It's pretty neat. It's just full of them here. Let's see if we can see this excavation point. Yeah, so you can see the old paleo entrance they had there and where they come into at now. They have the runs of E1, E2, E3, and how it runs through there, and the cave system that runs through those. So, pretty neat. Any new info comes out on anything like this, and I'll sure pass it along to y'all as soon as it comes out. Boy, I know that picture that I was looking for is coming here. Here's that picture of those horses that somebody's now recreated onto a shale. You can find professional artists that'll do this for you too, and it can end up being something that you have, in your house yourself. Okay, here's the thing about the dog. The Chauvet Cave in France, there's a 50-meter trail of footprints made by a boy of around 10 years old, prints alongside that of a large wolf dog animal. The boy explored the cave with a torch and took some of the earliest known cave paintings, taking his ancestor of the modern dog with him for companionship. This is one of the first evidence of a human-dog friendship, and it occurred somewhere around 26,000 years ago. So man's best friend has been around for a long, long time. And there's the bear skull altar. Hopefully that'll show up real good in there. Yep. There's the bear skull that's there. This is like when it's found before it's excavated, and you can see all this has now been excavated, but all this around here were sitting places and then bones arranged in order around the skull that was setting up on this flattened stone, which was placed there. So this had something to do with that too. And I don't know if anybody remembers the Clan of the Cave Bear, the ancient movie where they really didn't speak. They had sign languages and grunts and things, and they in simplistic words. It had Daryl Hannah as Ayla, which was apparently the first Cro-Magnon girl to come out of a group of Neanderthals, if you will. If you've never seen it, it's pretty neat to watch, and if you're into things like this, it'd be something really to watch. But are we looking at some evidence of something that is Clan of the Cave Bear? Quite possibly so. If we get any more info on this, I'll actually make a video of Clan of the Cave Bear and see if I can put in some of the video from the actual movie itself without it getting flagged. But until then, guys, enjoy, like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, Chauvet, France. Interesting cave art now, going back some 38,000 years. And well drawn. And it seems to have good symbology with it, too, and things. Peace.